Ladies and gentlemen, please be outstanding for the Chair of Harlow Council.
Good evening, councillors. Please be seated. Item 1, apologies for absence. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Chair. I have apologies from Councillor Andrew Johnson, Sharon Johnson, Alistair Gunn, Mike Hardware, Nick Churchill, Gareth Williams and David Carter.
Thank you.
I've got apologies from Councillor Jamie Harvey, Councillor Maggie Hawkgrew, Councillor John Stratton, Councillor.
Thank you very much. Oh, Mark Williams. Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Is there any? No? Minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of October. Agreed. Communications from myself. Paper. I've done quite a few visits, home services, remembrance services. We had my civic service, which was thank everybody who attended. We raised some money for my charities. I think Brentwood, I've been all over the place ever since, so it's been very enjoyable. Item 5, petitions from the public. I understand there are none. Questions from the public? There are none. Questions from the councillors? Councillors.
Thank you, Chair. I will read this out, Chair. Will the Council confirm that the Council tax cut which promised before last May's elections to be immediate will be incorporated into the budget for next year?
Councillor Redmond.
Yes, thank you for the question. As we previously stated, the Cabinet has been reviewing the Council's finances since taking control in May and will be finalising its financial plans and budgets prior to the Cabinet in January.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I know this administration isn't keen on the detail, but considering Harlow District Council only takes about 17% of the council's tax collected, the Conservative Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner of Essex has already said that he will be looking to raise his element of the council tax by 5%, and we'd like to see a rise from Essex Council, although they froze part of the council tax last year, they still raised the bit on social care. Can the portfolio give us some indication as to what percentage decrease there will be in your budget, so that we've got an idea as to where those cuts will be made?
Actually, the Harlow share of the council tax is 15.2%. But as we all know, the financial year commences at the beginning of April, and we assumed office towards the end of May, so the financial year had already started. Furthermore, and without labouring the point, and I don't mean that as a pun, our task has not been assisted by the fact that the council's accounts had not been signed off by the auditors since 2018 and 19. However, that issue looks like it's shortly to be resolved after long last. The next agenda item, or one of the forthcoming agenda items, by the leader of the council will announce our new corporate strategy, where you will see that a key objective is to become a low tax authority. Given the much publicised attention our tax policy has attracted amongst the opposition as well, and their clear excitement that they are shown, almost to the point of exuberance, given the number of announcements we've had, I can only confidently anticipate that the leader of the opposition will entreat his members to support our new corporate strategy tonight.
Well done. Councillor Dix, your second question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Fireworks are used by people throughout the year to mark different events. While they can bring much enjoyment to some people, they can cause significant problems and fear for other people and animals. What work will the council do to encourage residents to attend our own excellent display opposed to their own private displays?
Councillor Charles.
Thank you, Chair. The Council encouraged residents to attend the Town Park fireworks display through advertising on the Council's website and a dedicated events page, which received over 27,000 visits. The event was also advertised on the Council's Facebook and Twitter pages. 50,000 Facebook users were reached by the Council's posts. Press releases were also issued and published by your Harlow alongside other local media outlets. The Council also shared advice on social media from the Essex Fire Service, which encouraged people to attend public firework displays where possible. Posters advertising the event were also put up on site. The Council's approach to promotional activity was proportionate and appropriate given the ongoing concerns about public gatherings as a result of COVID-19, weighted against the benefits of providing a safe public display. All the press releases issued by the Council about fireworks tonight carried our administration's latest position on the pandemic. In the lead up to the fireworks night, an officer-led working group plans for and assesses risk factors when organising the event logistics and also considers the best approach for managing the flow of people attending. Animal welfare is an important area of focus too, particularly because Pets Corner is in close proximity to the fireworks display. Work is always undertaken to mitigate the impact on animals housed at Pets Corner on the night. The outcome of the work undertaken by the Council was one of the best attended fireworks displays in recent years, with an estimated crowd of over 20,000 people.
Do you have something?
Yeah, and thank you for your full answer, Councillor Charles. I mean, the only comment I was going to make there is obviously, I appreciate the things you said, and it was an excellent display, I can see it from my house. But it was just to say to probably more than 20,000 people in effect saw it. But I was just going to say, obviously we're aware that fireworks don't just happen in November at fireworks night. Obviously, we're coming towards the new year. There may be certainly there's going to be a big fireworks night. I assume it's going to be the annual one in London. But I just wondered, is there going to be inadequate? So my question would be, are we going to have sort of similar? How can I put this? Similar kind of work done to sort of deter people from having their own private space across New Year as well.
Councillor Charles.
Well, thank you, Chair. There are three elements to this response to council events. First of all, of course, as part of our preparations, our commitment to this town is to host fireworks displays every year while we're in administration, and that is a commitment that we hold dear to us because those important public gatherings are really important. But taking into consideration the public safety element, the welfare of individuals that are sensitive to noise and light, and of course animals. One of the campaigns that the Council has supported historically is the Bang Out of Order campaign, and it does jointly not only with our community safety team but Essex Police. Now, the last 2 years they've not been able to do that campaign because of obvious reasons, because of the pandemic. But it is our intention in 2022 to embark on that campaign again to raise awareness of the issues of private displays as opposed to the brilliant public display that we put on in this town. I've also been approached by residents around an Rspca campaign around animal welfare. Of course, the Council takes this very seriously. With the working group that officers lead to develop the fireworks night every year, we will, of course, as we do every year, take into consideration animal welfare. And I've asked officers when they are considering the events, the event planning for fireworks night next year, that we look at if all the considerations have been looked at to ensure that animal welfare is at the forefront of our minds alongside public safety, but also putting on a fantastic fireworks night display.
Councillor John Spear.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can I ask the portfolio holder for regeneration what steps he has taken to regenerate the town centre?
I presume Councillor Danvers is laughing at Labour's record on first.
No, I'm laughing at a planted question, Chair.
The administration is working around the clock to plan and deliver the rebuild on the town centre. The new corporate strategy upon which we will vote tonight made very clear that regeneration is our #1 corporate priority. That means not just talking about regeneration and designing pretty images of plans, but finally getting on to deliver the regeneration that our town centre needs. We have already passed a key milestone in the name of the Town Centre Master Planning Framework, which is the first planning framework the Council has ever put in place for the town centre. That document begins to tackle the historic land ownership issues in the town centre, and for the first time arms our planning colleagues with the material considerations they need to take back control of the town centre. I cannot understate the importance of that document, which is the first in the history of the council. To that end, a series of announcements will be made in due course setting out how we will deliver that regeneration. Our ambition knows no bounds. That ambition will not just be a pipe dream, as has been the case in the past, it will be realised. Harlow Town Centre will be thriving as one of the best places in the country to enjoy high-end retail, leisure, hospitality, arts and culture, including a nighttime economy and an excellent quality of environment and public realm, with people travelling to the town centre from other areas in the region to enjoy its offerings.
Councillor Steer, do you have supplementary?
I do. Yes, I do, thank you, Chair. I'm pleased by the commitments that you set out, the work that's been undertaken. Regeneration of our town centre has been promised for many years, but what reassurance can you give that it will finally happen?
Well, if anyone had any doubt over our commitment to delivering, they need not. We have already in short order passed the first ever planning framework, as I've just mentioned, which is the first in the town's history and the first major step towards delivering this. I do, however, understand why people are sceptical. Regeneration has never happened. We've had years of unmet promises and failure to deliver. In recent years alone, we had, and you may recall, I recall it well, Friday the 8th of June 2018, a major facelift quote to, quote, Newmarket Square. Remember that? Probably not. You remember the council tax bill, I'm sure, for it. In fact, in an interview the former portfolio holder gave, he said about town centre regeneration, and I quote, it's an evolution, not a revolution. Well, my goodness, what stage did you leave that at? Perhaps with the benefit of the doubt, Homo habilis, whom I think at least made it out of the water. In the seriousness of the matter, though, I do totally understand why people are sceptical, but we are getting on with the job, and I would add that if we don't deliver, and if we don't transform the town centre, we will have failed. There are challenges, but there are no excuses, and we are going to build, and to that end, a series of announcements will be made in the new year. We will get on and deliver what the people of this town voted for, and what I have set out a number of times, a rebuilding of our town centre to attract high-end retail, hospitality, leisure and entertainment, one that our town can be proud of.
Right, question 4 from Councillor Gareth Williams, who's not here, so we'll pass on that one, and we will go to question 5, Councillor Saggers.
Thank you, Chair. My question is to the new portfolio holder for environment. First, may I welcome you to your new post. I would like to ask if you have any plans to do with regard to bushes and the overgrowth in many estates that are thorn in the residents and most of the residents in Harlow. But now we've been told that due to COVID, staffing issues, the wrong season because of wildlife nesting in the bushes, they couldn't be trimmed. So now we're in the winter wonderland that we're in. Do you have any plans that last mentioned didn't have at this time of year to look at the green areas and take them back to manageable levels and hope bring some festive joy to those in Harlow? Not only to send their winter discontent and make sure that you're not another Scrooge.
Councillor Purse.
I believe I'm not, rather than a Scrooge, I'm more like the ghost of a Christmas future. We are working around the clock to restore the pride in our estates, including by reviewing the service level agreement with HTS and the council. Walking around ward by ward with HTS and the officers and carrying out a full environmental and street scenes audit. Speeding up the planning and the rollout of the winter programme works through the delivery of a new task force. Visiting each area after the winter programme has been carried out to see if the works meet the expectations of the residents and the administration. Beginning works on a new tree maintenance policy, There will be much more work going on around, but whatever it takes fully to restore the pride to our wonderful estates and the people of Harlow elected us to do so.
Councillor Saggers, do you have a supplementary?
I do, Chair. My supplementary question. As the winter of discontent was in 1978, before my time, do you agree that the old Labour administration decided to stand down their workers at time of need? The fact that they never had a policy to deal with the problem, nor did they enforce the policy they did have. But they blamed everybody else for the fact that the winter of discontent, as far as the environment for Harlow estates is concerned, but left a decade of discontent, especially in Mark Hall at the Stowe, where there's a lovely Christmas market tomorrow and Saturday if anybody wants to go. You were there, Mark.
Councillor Gross.
I'm hoping to change that winter of discontent with reviewing the service level agreement first of all, and by ward. We did, the last administration did stand down last year the actual green teams, which other councils didn't. They took the view of keeping the green spaces open and clear for people to take their 30 minutes of leisure and exercise. We stood them down, and it has to be said, it has cost us in the long run to actually do that. We're now having to pay back to actually get the levels of work back to where the expectation of the residents, and this is going to be a task that will go on ward by ward, audit by audit, and the surface level agreement will be reviewed. That's making it fit for purpose, because we've had a decade now of ignoring the service level agreement. It's a not for fit for purpose document, and on top of that, the recovery plan that was put forward is a can't do document, not a can do.
Councillor Durkin.
Are we already on 6?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure whether or not I was in panto time or actually at full council, due to the fact that everything so far has been stage managed very badly. However, what I would like to say, if you do want to see a panto, there is an excellent one at the Playhouse, and tickets are still available. So I would like to read out my question, if I may, because I would like to go on record so that the representatives of the church and the directors of Leisure Zone absolutely know collectively what our concerns are over this one. So the leader of the council, would you agree with me that it's important that all councillors on the planning committee are independent in regards to any decisions they make as a collective committee? Whilst not making any reference to the actual planning appeal, would you please reassure all councillors that, as stated in the CRC Church's open letter, that you, like me, oppose the derogatory comments that the committee were, and I quote, so openly discriminating against a Christian church, and that the councillors on this committee so easily swayed that we see the infutable discrimination against our organisation and church. In light of this church's statement, can you question why officers have been accepted such an appeal, which is so unfair, unbalanced application in this type or format? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd also like to agree about the pantomime as soon as we brought it up. Fantastic play, really enjoyed it when I went with the family the other week.
You were very good in it.
Thank you ever so much. Was that you in that dress? But in response to your actual question, Councillor, the letter referred to in the question relates to an appeal statement issued by the CRC Church in relation to their planning application for part of the Leisure Zone site. This is an appeal made to the Independent Planning Inspectorate and not to Harlow Council. It is the Planning Inspectorate that has accepted the appeal, not Harlow Council officers. Any appellant is entitled to make their own statement to the Inspectorate. and as it's now part of a formal appeal process, the council cannot request a retraction of their statement. The council is simply a party to the appeal process and is not in control of it. However, Harlow Council has to submit its own statement to the Planning Inspectorate on this matter by the 28th of December. Within this statement, we will be making it clear that councillors are entitled to express their views as part of the democratic process, and also that all decisions of the Development Management Committee are collective decisions. Given that this is a quasi-judicial process, I am not able to make any further comment on this matter.
Councillor Durkin, do you have a supplementary?
And whilst I welcome the leader's acceptance that the decisions made by the planning committee are a collective decision, could I press you further and can I push you to openly declare that you agree with me that the comments associated to the church are unfounded and offensive to our colleagues on this committee? If you're not able to do that, is this going to be seen as another example of your inability to lead anything, let alone lead a council? You should be standing with me defending the democratic rights of our democratically elected comrades, and we should not be tolerating and we should not be accepting these offensive words. Will you agree with me?
As ever, Chair, I'm not really sure which one of the several supplementary questions I'm meant to be answering there, but I'll do my best.
Well, anyone would help.
I'll tackle the one about my inability to lead. Give us a chance, Tony. It's only been a month. And you had 10 years. On the one about discriminatory comments, I refer back to previous statements I've made on this, that I do not believe that there is a place for any discrimination against any religion, faith, or anybody of any sex, gender, or creed. And so I would fully support any attempts to try and stamp that kind of thing out. As I say, I cannot make any further comment on this particular matter, as this is quite a judicial process. And I think I've made my statement clear what I think about people that are intolerant of others' faiths. Equally, individual councillors are accountable for their own words if they breach any of those rules. And that is not for me to decide on a whim.
So you don't support council as well, don't you?
Thank you. Right. Item 9. Sorry, item 8, there is no motion from councillors. Item 9, reference from cabinet committees, a referral from the licensing committee, adoption of the strict trading policy. Do I have a proposer?
Chair, I propose the referral from licensing committee, the adoption of strict trading policy.
And seconder? Councillor Smith. Do you want to go on to debate or do you want to go to the vote on this? Go straight to the vote then. Those all those in favour? Those against? That is carried. Right. Item B, referral from Audit and Standards Committee, auditor appointment. Do I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Saggers. And a seconder? Councillor Leppard. Do you want to give? Yes, Councillor Leppard.
Chair, will this actually help us in regards to our audit stalemate in regards to external auditors? Our audit was cleared in every year by the internal auditors, but the external auditors actually held up the giving permission to the audit by one issue, and that issue alone, one issue, HTS pension fund, just one issue. So we have a reassurance, Chair, that the new system will actually address this.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, it has been a matter of concern, but we've had full assurances from the officer responsible that the issue has now been resolved, and the existing auditors have, in fact, accepted the interpretation that Harlow Council has apply to
And
that.
that was the only thing that held up?
Yes, it was.
external-
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I accept that. It's true. I found that out as well. We've been told that the present auditors will probably continue to be our auditors under this scheme, the way it works. But just to reassure you, the issue of the pension fund has been resolved.
Thank you.
Given that we've got that acceptance, that was the only thing that was holding up the budget. Can we have an undertaking in future that the Conservative Party will stop paying this ridiculous politics as far as this budget was concerned, as far as the budgets were concerned? We've been accused of not having had the not having had the accounts audited. We've been accused as if that was being done somehow or other as an oversight, or somehow or other done in terms of incompetence, when you know full well that the only reason that wasn't audited was just that one item, and that was because of, as far as anything there were disputes between accountants as to how that matter should be resolved. So can we at long last put this matter well and truly to bed?
As I just said, the matter has now been resolved, so there is no longer an issue outstanding.
Anybody else want to speak? Can we go to the vote? Those in favour? 3. Referral from the electoral review working group from Harlow Council electoral cycle, is that the proposer?
Proposed.
Seconder? Thank you. Debate? Go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 10, report from officers, the polling station review. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, item E, referral from the cabinet, local council tax. Oh, sorry, corporate strategy, I do apologise. Yes. Seconder?
Second.
Debate? Yes, Councillor Davis.
Chair, I'm very alarmed about this. At the end of the day, Essex County Council went down the path. Essex County Council sold off all of its other people's homes, and now we've got a crisis in regards to making sure that elderly people can be properly accommodated. Essex County Council sold off all of its children's homes, and now it's finding itself paying £116,000 a year just to accommodate one child. It gave a 25-year contract to highways, and we know what state Harlow's roads are in. Are we really going to go down the same path? Is Harlow Council really going to go down the same path as Essex County Council? Thurrock Council was surprisingly taken over by the Tories recently. What have they done? They've gone down this commercial route. What have they found themselves in? £1 billion of debt, Chairperson, of money that they cannot pay back in terms of commercial investment. We've got a mess with privatisation. Railways are a mess. Electricity, we know people actually cut off from electricity well after the storm from the other week, simply because the private electric companies are more concerned with profit than making sure that the infrastructure is maintained. What have we got with privatised water resources? Sewage everywhere and continuing fines by the courts. Is Harlow Council really going to go down the same path?
Thank you, Chair, and very similar to my colleague Councillor Danvers, when I read this report, it was very light, it was very dull, it was unworkable, it's unachievable. This is actually about selling off stuff. This is about the cost of everything and the value of nothing. In the past, the party opposite tried to sell off our jewels, the Playhouse. We were close to closing Pets Corner. We were close to closing the museum. I could go on, but it was because of their ineptitude at that time that we were on that precipice of losing these particular issues. We could even though my colleague earlier on was very critical of everybody in every time in relation to regeneration, But let's just remember what happened when you were in charge last time. Yes, you did develop the market square. What did you do? You put red pots in there, famously known as Perrin's red pots. And what were in the Perrin's red pots? Dead trees. What actually also happened is actually we put toys in there. And what happened to those toys? They broke within a couple of weeks. So you've got to understand that some of us who've been here for a while may be fairly sceptical about their abilities and their actions over these issues, up and including privatisation. Privatisation is not the answer.
Councillor Schwartz.
Can't you just behave? Partnership is the solution. And absolutely, under our leadership, that is exactly what we did. Look at what we've achieved at the Science Park, the Enterprise Zone, working with the college. Everything else that my colleagues have suddenly have been claiming that they did was all done. And that was done by open, positive working relationships in partnership. So this is not, and should never be, about privatisation versus public. This should be about let's work together for the benefit of all. The problem is with this idea is that it seems to the Tories are going back to where they go, which is to their mates, where they feel that they can sell off everything for the cost of nothing. Look at the disaster that Johnson has done to this country in relation to only to the NHS. Look what happened to the corrupt nature of PPE and others, which I could go on with. We should not be selling off the silver to win a vote, because that vote is a loser. We need to learn from history. We have to accept, we have to explore history, and where it worked, we should celebrate. And unfortunately, this report comes very low down the marks of achievability. Thank you very much.
I've never heard so much humbug in all my life. Where?
With respect, sir, look,
where's the point of order? Sit down.
We have a thing called the Nolan Principles, where people should speak with respect and dignity, and I'm sick and tired of being these. Can you ask your colleague then to behave himself and speak with respect?
I've never heard so much humbug in all my life, and it comes back and back and
Canto
back.
time again.
Give it a rest, mate. Give it a rest. You've had your 10 years. Where in this document does it say once privatisation? It doesn't. It does not. I took the trouble of digging out the old corporate strategy today, 2018 to 2021. Not sure you ever read it. Number one corporate priority, more and better homes. I asked you folks how many more and better homes were built in that time. None. Not one. Nil quoi. So talk about delivery, you never delivered any. I must say, I've always been cautious about these documents. Sort of so-called high-level, so-called strategic form of words that people in a building such as this one pore over for hours on end, polish, and put pride of place on their shelf, saving it for reading on a rainy day. And then it suffers a fate like that to the crew of the Mary Celeste. It never sees light of day. And all those visions and promises fall into the abyss in the same sort of spirit as Apollo 13. And then politicians do the only thing they seem to be good at. They rewrite the same document in a different form, and then again place it on a shelf for a rainy day. Well, Chair, I can announce to the Chamber that it's rained an awful lot in the last 10 years in this town, and never once did that document come to light. I recall, in fact, it rained on May the 6th this year. Then a new dawn broke in the early hours of May the 7th, and the clouds parted over the leisure zone, and the rain passed. And I've never been shy myself, I must say, of making clear a vision and spelling out an aspiration. So I did, as all politicians dangerously do. I thought long and hard about what could be different this time. And for the benefit of those who've not made their way through the document yet, and I'd strongly encourage you to do so, sets out a very different vision to that one of the past 10 years. It sets out an ambitious vision of delivery, a vision of Harlow being the best town in the country. And there's only one party here that talks that town down. But we're going to rocket boost that vision, more in the spirit of Apollo 11, And it does the thing that's always failed to be done, and that is to deliver, that is to get on with the job. That is, and I quote, to shift the efforts of regenerating this town from low to high gear. That is to spread opportunity and prosperity to every corner of this town. That is to ensure that no matter which street corner you stand on and from which window you gaze, pride is restored in Harlow as the best town to live and to be. And above all, that is to get on with the job, because my ramblings, despite what some may say, will not be heard outside this chamber, and of course good readers of your Harlow. My ramblings, perhaps, despite what others may think, don't matter. What matters is action and delivery, neither of which we can do without a final destination, which this document sets out. So I wholeheartedly endorse it. I will tattoo it on my forehead as to signify the importance of the vision, and I will get on with the job, building hundreds of new council homes, restoring pride in our neighbourhoods with a once-in-a-generation programme of neighbourhood renewal, delivering a planning system that encourages residents to improve their homes, creating a fully independent and interconnected cycle track network, rebuilding our town centre with high-quality retail, leisure and hospitality offerings. Thousands of new jobs, opportunities, new homes, world-leading businesses, and the best town in Britain. No matter which street you grow up in, you will have the opportunity. No matter where you were born and where you go to school, you will have the opportunity. No matter what your parents do for work, you will have the opportunity. No matter the colour of your skin or your gender, you will have the opportunity. Opportunity and prosperity will be spread to all. That is our plan, that is what levelling up really means, and that is what we are delivering. So perhaps the next time we come to one of these council meetings, the opposition can actually read the report.
Nobody else? Councillor Vince.
Thank you, Chair. I obviously didn't get to mention this, but my last full council meeting I asked a question of Councillor Perrin about regeneration funding. And it was about the fact we hadn't got the money for the levelling up bid of £20 million, which was described as a small pot of money when we were previously criticised for not getting funding that was half that much. I asked a follow-up question, and Councillor Perrin didn't know the answer, and I take his word on that. As to when the £23.7 million of funding for regeneration was, which is part of the town investment plan, was submitted. The answer to that is in October 2020 under the last administration. I have read this document from a lot, the corporate strategy, and I've made a number of comments about it last week in Cabinet, so I'm going to keep this brief. But the point is, this strategy makes some very bold statements about a low-tax, efficient council. But when we try and get beneath the skin of this document, we see that there is no detail as to how this is going to happen. And I repeat the statement I made in Cabinet, if I'm allowed to finish, last week, that over the space of the 3 years that this medium-term strategy is due to take place, if we only freeze tax, it will mean £500,000 of shortfall in council finances. And there's absolutely no detail in this document as to how that is going to be addressed. The debt that Thurrock Council is 1.459 billion. I was accused of not doing the detail earlier. Councillor Perry says he's only been in charge for a month, but his administration has been in charge for 8 months. And I give them the benefit of doubt if they weren't so critical of the last administration in terms of the time it takes to make things happen. But we're waiting for the detail, Chair. I suspect we might be waiting a while.
Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Chair. Just in response to a previous speaker, Apollo 13 was a success.
Not in that round.
Well, there we go. Well, as usual with stories, it's about what they don't say, and as much as what they do, or what they don't do. I mean, they just stuck an advisor for a party that didn't actually happen, apparently. But anyway, cuts have to be paid for from somewhere. We all know this, and we all know where the axe are going to fall. If you look at the national playbook, we've had 10 years of austerity, which has not been a price worth paying for the degradation of our services. The courts denying people access to justice, the NHS privatisation resulting in the atomisation of care, in spite of all their clapping. They can't pay for shopping with that, there's a clue. And I would have to agree with Councillor Durgan that they know the price of everything and the value of nothing.
Councillor Edwards.
Just sort of look through here, it's not personal, look through here. I look through here again just to make certain that I hadn't missed it. and I haven't, because all of these statements are wonderful. Mother and apple pie statements, what we would want to sell. But there's no financial strategy underpinning any of this. There's no financial, it became apparent the other day when we were having a talk about the master plan for the town centre. Wonderful sort of vision of what could possibly be, but don't hold us to it. Because it isn't necessary, because there's no detail there. It's just a general outline. And then when you then say, well, okay, even if you were to have that plan and you were to develop it, where's the financial strategy to develop it? It's not there. So I look through here to be saying, well, okay, where's the statement about developing a financial strategy? There's one, there's a medium-term ambition to produce an economic development strategy, not a short-term ambition, not the medium one now. But it's a looking at finance. We're looking at finance. Sorry. Thank you for putting me off my stride. But even in terms of the finance, let's look at this. It says short-term ambition, authority that values its staff, etc. Develop opportunities, explore opportunities for a shared service. There's nothing in here in terms of the short-term ambition about actually having a financial strategy. Nothing in the short term. There's nothing, it doesn't appear to be much in the medium term either about developing a strategy and having a strategy. That's absolutely fundamental. If you're going to be doing anything in terms of taking this town forward, the one thing you should be doing now, in fact coming to us, you said that we've been in office for 10 years, well you've had 10 years to sort out your economic strategy. You've arrived in the council with a number of sort of spurious ideas which you're calling a vision, but there's nothing underneath it there in terms of an economic strategy, is how in any way you're likely to achieve your vision. So, you know, it's here, this is it, you're going to vote on it tonight, it will go through tonight, no doubt, but in terms of the judging as to whether or not this will be a success, that's for the future. And certainly I think we can look back in a year or so's time, or a couple of years' time, and say, okay, have you achieved even your medium-term ambitions? I somehow have doubts.
Yes, I mean, call me old-fashioned, but sometimes that one does the corporate vision strategy, thereafter builds the financial strategy. That's the way I've normally seen it, rather than the other way around, which might explain why not much happened in 10 years. Yeah. That said, on page 41 of the report you've just been reading, it says strategic outcomes. First one is to deliver a sustainable financial medium-term strategy. I also said in answer to Councillor Vince's question that we are well on the way to finalising the medium-term financial strategy and the budget for the Cabinet in January, so you'll have plenty of time to see it. But let me just leave you with one last comment. We are going to cut council tax. It's not going to be a fiver. We're not going to say, go have a pint on us, cheers. No, it will be significant. And there will be no cuts, and I repeat, no cuts to any of our discretionary services. Okay, so you have that on the record again, for the hard of hearing. Thank you.
Mr. Charles.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's always very dangerous to selectively quote history. Councillor Durkin has been very clear in his interpretation of history, but I remember when he was leader of this council, when we came in as an administration, inherited an almighty black hole which was undertaken under his watch. So I would caution Councillor Durkin when he starts selectively quoting history. Throughout the last 8 months, what this administration has done is to look root and branch at this council and understand there were some fundamental failures of the previous administration. They had no vision, they had no strategic narrative that the officers could follow and then put into action, and they would never follow through on a promise. The purpose of this corporate strategy is very clear. It is a roadmap under the portfolio holders, under short, medium and long-term actions to deliver real change for this town, because for far too long, politicians have sat in this chamber and not delivered on the regeneration agenda. We will. They have not safeguarded our community services as best as they could. We will. They have not taken to heart the need to run a low tax authority. We will. And I also want to just focus on my own community and business resilience brief, fundamental at the moment. What has been lacking tonight from the opposition is any comment on responding to COVID-19. In all their vitriol, in all their comments tonight, not one comment on the issue of the day, and that is COVID-19. So this administration, with its community resilience strategy, will get on with the job of responding to people's anxieties, their concerns about the coronavirus, in the absence of an opposition that is not being responsible at this critical time. We will stand up to that challenge, we will confront it, and we will look to safeguard public health, because that is the matter of the day. They have not once mentioned it in their comments. I think that is, frankly, if you want to play politics, frankly, that is disgraceful on all of you. The other aspect of this is a point around commerciality. Our administration is unashamed in our passion for commerciality, because we want to drive forward the strategy for HTS, which members opposite have embraced, and I hope they continue to do so, because that is good for the town. It's an investment in the town. Yes, we've got to deal with the challenges around our environment, but we know what the previous administration has done. The ultimate ambition of our corporate strategy is to get on with the job. For far too many years, I've sat in this chamber, listened to Labour politicians bang on and on about why they should be in control of this town. They have a superiority complex that was bursted in the last election. So I say to my colleagues, get on board, talk about the real issues of the day, and stop playing politics.
My point of order is that the council knows full well that we offered to put together a joint statement. It's a point of personal clarification. They know full well that we offered to put together a joint statement on topics prior to this meeting, which was not accepted.
Well, all I was going to say, Chair, is that making a point of order, you need to be able to point to the particular standing order you're talking to. I think there is
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Chair. Wow. What an amazing display we've just had here. Orwellian, maybe, in its delivery. I do so love getting history lectures from the Labour opposition. Red pots.
Parents' pots.
Oh, parents' pots. That is the biggest pivot I've ever heard in political history, because who sat on the committee that was going, these are great, and putting his hand up and voting for him at the time? Councillor Durkin, he was there. And he got cross-party support. Why were the trees there? They were only meant to be there for a year. When he came into administration, he didn't follow through with the plan of regenerating that part of the town and moving those trees as was planned to the town park. No, he's left them there. Oops. Yeah. Exactly. That's why it went the way it did. Privatisation. Forgive me, I don't see the word privatisation anywhere in there. I tell you, the only time this council has privatised anything was under our last administration, I get that. And we were quite open and plain about that, and that was the crematorium. And I remember at the time being accused of privatising death when the place was overgrown, there was leaks in the roof, there were families that were trying to say goodbye to loved ones in a dilapidated state. It was costing this authority a fortune, it wasn't being maintained. We changed that, and now it nets a revenue to this council approximately £1 million a year. And all for the 10 years that they were in, they didn't change that.
Such is their principle, that they don't change it. It's dogma. It's dogma. Dogma. We talk about the wonderful states.
Do not interrupt, please.
Or if he wants to
Dogma.
the full picture,
Yes.
by charging us small
Why did you come to
to bereave
Be quiet.
Thank you.
Very good. Now, talk about wonderful state of things. I'm a bit perplexed by some of the other comments I've heard here. For example, worry that this is going to somehow damage. We're going to sell the family silver. And yet, on the other hand, most of everyone else over there thinks we're not going to deliver it anyway. So what's the worry? You know, what's the worry? You either are or you ain't. Talk about protecting discretionary services. There's councillors along here have pointed out, and there's the deputy leader of the council has also pointed out, the only time that a single discretionary service was shut was by that party. I don't know why they keep bringing it up, because it just allows me to remind everyone of it. They shut the playhouse. They actually closed the doors on the playhouse. We never ever did.
You close the mines.
No.
Remember that one?
They closed the playhouse, and yet every year they bring it up and they say, oh, discretionary services are under threat, under choice. But they're the only ones that ever closed anything. There used to be a ski slope in this town when I grew up, disappeared under them, and so on and so forth. Discretionary services closed year after year under them when there was record investment in local government. And now they worry about us, and we've never closed a single thing. We've got the figure of 500k black hole in our budget, and yet they were accusing us earlier of not giving them any detail on the level of cut. I don't know where that number comes from. Talking about economic literacy, economic clairvoyance, I think. We talk about worrying about how we must be working with other authorities, share. Actually, on page 43, it says exactly that. Page 43, short-term ambition, explore opportunities for shared service provision. Shared service provision. We're doing it. We're doing it. And what's most bizarre, what's totally bizarre, is that this went through on Cabinet the other night. Eugene Harvey, Mark Wilkinson, former Labour leader, and indeed Chris Vince actually was sitting there and telling us actually what a wonderful document it was. They couldn't find a single thing to criticise other than, I think Eugene Harvey said there were some typos, and when the officers went back and looked, there were 5 typos in a 150-page document, which I admit shouldn't have been there, but hey, that was the only criticism they could level at us. And now we've had a Damascus conversion where actually now it's the worst thing since I don't know when. Yeah, since closing the playhouse. Yeah. And again, as Councillor Leppard has rightly pointed out, when we set the vision, you've got to set the vision. And as I've explained, I've tried so hard to explain to you that once you set the vision, then you set the medium-term financial strategy, and then you move to your one-yearly budget. And this allows the officers to be able to deliver what we have set out. And what we have set out is this: a new vision, a renewal of Harlow, more council homes, greater investment in our services, a reduction in tax, a cohesive society, a better green environment, and as it says in this document, prosperity for the benefit of all, which is what we didn't get under that lot sat over there. Thank you very much, Chair.
Right, can we now go to the vote? Thank you, that's carried. Right, item A, referral from Cabinet, the local council tax support scheme proposal. Are we proposing that? Councillor Perry and Councillor Leppard as seconder. You vote? No? Go to the vote? Item 10, the polling station review. Councillor Perry, are you proposing this?
I am.
Councillor Charles?
Seconded, yeah.
The vote? Go to the vote?
Agreed.
It's carried. Item 11, appointment to committees, subcommittees and panels of the council and their chairs and vice chairs. And we've got appointment of council representatives on outside bodies. And
On the new supplementary, Chair.
yes, it is. Is that agreed?
One question.
Yes, Councillor.
I'm a bit unclear, I'm sorry to come into this late, I only just noticed it. Since sadly the death of Tony Hall, the council is entitled to a member on the sports trust that owns the leisure centre. And I'm a little bit unclear, I'm not asking it to be cleared up tonight, but I think perhaps the powers that be might actually look at that, because I think we should clearly be represented if we're not already. If I made a mistake, I apologise.
We'll look into that for you, Mike.
Thank you.
Is that moved?
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, and that be right. Item 13, minutes of the cabinet meeting, all the way down to item D, item noted. I've been informed of no urgent matters, so closing this meeting at 8:55. Thank you very much. We'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you.